E. coli outbreak is linked to one death and at least 10 hospitalizations across the country.
Somewhere in Canada right now, there's a kitchen door you are not allowed behind. And if you knew what public records, court filings, health inspection databases, and federal lobbying registries actually reveal about some of the most trusted names in Canadian dining, you might think twice before pulling up to that drive-thru window again. 5 Canadian restaurant brands are on this list, all of them household names. All of them currently facing some combination of government-documented violations, ongoing class action lawsuits, active court proceedings, or federal scrutiny that most Canadians are completely unaware of. Not rumors, not anonymous tips, paper trails. We dug through provincial health inspection records, CFIA enforcement databases, federal lobbying registries, and active court filings to put this together. What we found is not what these companies want you reading about on your lunch break. And here's the part that should make you stop whatever you're doing. In almost every case on this list, the official corporate response has been either total silence or language so carefully constructed by legal teams that it says essentially nothing at all. Which, if you think about it, might be the most telling answer of all. Every brand on this list serves millions of Canadians. Every one of them operates in your city, your neighborhood, possibly on your commute. And more than one of them has been found in documented violation of Canadian law within the past year alone. Before we get into it, if this is the kind of accountability reporting you believe more Canadians need access to, subscribe before we expose number 1, because the chain at the top of this list is among the most iconic restaurant operations in Canadian history, and what's currently sitting on the public record about them is something their communications department would very much prefer you never came across. 5 chains, 5 stories. Let's get into it. Number 5, Subway Canada. With over 3,000 locations across Canada, Subway is one of the most widespread restaurant chains in this country. There is virtually no city, town, or highway corridor in Canada without one. And that density is exactly what makes what's been documented at the provincial level so significant. Provincial health authorities across Canada conduct routine inspections of all food service establishments, and Subway franchise locations have reportedly appeared in public health inspection records with violations ranging from improper food temperature controls to pest-related concerns. In Quebec, the Ministère de l'Agriculture, des Pêcheries et de l'Alimentation, known publicly as MAPAC, maintains a publicly searchable database of food establishment condemnations, and reporting tied to that record has documented fines at various franchise fast food locations, with Subway among the chains that have appeared in those records. Based on available public information, no national-level Canadian audit of food safety compliance across Subway's full franchise network has been publicly announced. But here is what makes the Subway story particularly uncomfortable to examine. Because Subway operates on a franchise model, the company's legal position is that it is not the direct employer, that each franchise is independently owned and operated. This is the same argument that has been used in courts both in Canada and abroad to insulate the parent brand from responsibility when things go wrong at the store level. What that arrangement means in practice, when food safety violations are documented at a franchise location, when a health inspector writes up a kitchen for unsanitary conditions, Subway corporate can point to the franchisee. And the individual franchisee, typically a small operator without the resources of a multinational, rarely generates the kind of public record that reaches most Canadians. The question Canadians arguably should be asking is not simply whether their local Subway passed its last inspection. The larger question is whether the franchise model itself creates a structural accountability gap, one that allows a corporation generating billions in royalties worldwide to legally distance itself from consequences every time something goes wrong in a store bearing its name. Number 4, McDonald's Canada. McDonald's, over 1,400 locations in Canada, one of the most recognized brand names on earth, and currently linked to ongoing litigation with roots in one of the most alarming food contamination events in recent North American restaurant history. In late 2024, what became known publicly as the McDonald's E. coli outbreak spread across 14 American states, infecting over 104 people, resulting in 34 hospitalizations and at least 1 death. According to federal health investigators, the source was reportedly traced to fresh slivered onions supplied by a third-party distributor. McDonald's responded by pulling Quarter Pounders from affected regional menus. Multiple lawsuits, including proposed class actions, were filed in the United States and are, according to publicly available court records, still working through the system. McDonald's Canada responded quickly and clearly. A public statement issued at the time said the issue did not impact Canadian operations and that none of the affected products were used in Canada. And to be clear, no confirmed E. coli cases have been publicly linked to Canadian McDonald's locations from this outbreak. But here is the question that lingers. McDonald's Canada and McDonald's United States operate within a global corporate ecosystem, sharing parent company oversight, supplier relationships, and quality control frameworks. When a contamination event of this scale exposes how quickly a single third-party supplier failure can reach over 100 people across 14 states, the reasonable question for any market is, how confident are we in the systems designed to catch that before it spreads? What makes the Canadian situation particularly notable is not what we know happened here. It is how little the company has publicly said about what those Canadian safeguards actually look like, what specific controls exist, who audits them, and how independently they operate from the U.S. supply chain infrastructure that failed. Ongoing U.S. litigation is expected to produce discovery documents in the coming period that may reveal significantly more about how contamination moved through shared supplier networks. Canadian regulators and consumers will want to follow those disclosures closely. The lawsuits are ongoing. The broader supply chain questions remain, by most accounts, publicly unanswered. Number 3. Recipe Unlimited. There is a very good chance you have never heard the name Recipe Unlimited, but you have almost certainly eaten at one of their restaurants. Recipe Unlimited is Canada's largest full-service restaurant company. Their portfolio includes Swiss Chalet, Harvey's, Montana's, Eastside Mario's, Kelsey's, and several other national brands. Over 1,100 restaurant locations operating across Canada. When one company controls that many brands, that many kitchens, and that many customer-facing operations simultaneously, the risks of a single systemic failure rippling across the entire portfolio are not theoretical. They are documented. In October 2018, Recipe Unlimited issued a public statement confirming that a network outage had impacted a limited number of their restaurant locations, forcing temporary closures across multiple brands. The company offered limited public detail about the nature of the incident, what systems were affected, and, critically, what customer information, if any, was exposed during that period. For Canadians who had accounts or payment data across any of Recipe's digital platforms, the level of public transparency offered was, by most accounts, minimal. That pattern of limited public disclosure is worth keeping in mind as Recipe Unlimited continues expanding its digital ordering and loyalty program, infrastructure across all of its brands, platforms that collect and retain significant volumes of customer data. And then there are the courts. Recipe Unlimited is currently referenced in active Ontario Superior Court proceedings arising from franchise disputes. Court records, specifically First of Five Incorporated versus Recipe Unlimited Corporation, 2025 ONSC 93, reflect ongoing legal tensions between the parent company and at least one franchise partner, with injunctive relief among the issues at play. These disputes rarely generate headlines, but they are a matter of public court record, and they raise pointed questions about how Canada's largest full-service restaurant company manages relationships with the operators running its brands on the ground. Over 1,100 restaurants, tens of millions of Canadians served annually across their brands. And the public disclosures about what happens when their systems fail, or when their franchise relationships break down, have consistently been, according to available records, less than complete. Now, the next two brands on this list are arguably the most recognizable restaurant names in Canada. One of them is under active federal scrutiny and has not responded to a formal investigation request. The other is simultaneously dealing with documented government fines, an active class action lawsuit, and an ongoing federal controversy that its parent company, valued at over $30 billion, has done everything in its power to manage quietly. Subscribe before we expose them, because what comes next is what most Canadians eating out every single day have no idea is happening. Number 2, A&W Canada. A&W, the Canadian fast food brand that has spent years carefully and deliberately cultivating a premium, wholesome image. Their marketing has leaned heavily on commitments like chicken raised without the routine use of antibiotics, a genuine and publicly documented distinguishing claim in the Canadian fast food market. So here's the question. What does it say about a company when recruiters reportedly used to place workers at its Canadian restaurant locations were allegedly charging those workers thousands of dollars just to get to work? In late 2024, the Globe and Mail reported on an immigration consultant named Allison Jones and her associated companies who allegedly worked routinely to bring foreign nationals into Canada to work at large retailers and restaurant chains, reportedly charging those workers up to $7,900 each for the placement process. According to that reporting, Ms. Jones also reportedly placed workers at some A&W franchise locations as part of these arrangements. Charging recruitment fees to workers is recognized internationally as an exploitative practice, identified explicitly as such by the International Labour Organization, regardless of its legal status in specific jurisdictions. The fees reportedly charged rendered those workers financially indebted before they ever served a single customer, creating, according to international labor standards, conditions that leave workers structurally vulnerable to exploitation by employers. Here's what makes A&W's response to all of this particularly notable. When the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre formally invited A&W Food Services of Canada to respond to these allegations in early 2025, A&W reportedly did not respond at all. The recruiter in question was subsequently fined. A&W Canada has not publicly addressed the allegations against the recruiter reportedly linked to worker placements at franchise locations in their network. There has been no publicly announced audit of franchisee hiring practices. There has been no public commitment to ensuring that workers placed at their restaurants were not put into conditions of financial vulnerability before their first shift. A&W Food Services of Canada, the company whose entire brand identity is built around transparency about what's in your food, has been remarkably silent about what reportedly happened to the people making it. Number 1. Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons, 3,886 locations across Canada, according to Restaurant Brands International's official figures. More Canadian locations than any other restaurant chain in this country. A brand so embedded in national identity that it has, for many Canadians, become synonymous with the country itself. And right now, it is dealing with documented government fines, active federal controversy, and an authorized class action lawsuit, all at the same time. Let's start with what is currently in Quebec's public records. According to MAPAQ, Quebec's Provincial Food Safety Authority, 5 different Tim Hortons locations on the island of Montreal were reportedly found guilty of food safety violations linked to inspections carried out in recent years, with court judgments issued in 2024 and 2025. Among the violations documented, inspectors reportedly found the premises were not free of contaminants described as insects or rodents. 2 of those locations were reportedly fined twice in 2025 for repeat violations of the same issue. Total fines issued across those cases reached $6,000, not 1 location, 5, with 2 of them cited for the exact same problem more than once. Now add what is happening at the federal level. According to CBC News, Tim Hortons, through its parent company Restaurant Brands International, reportedly spent over 18 consecutive months actively lobbying the federal government to raise the cap on temporary foreign workers at its franchises. In a letter sent to Canada's then immigration minister in mid-2024, the company reportedly asked to increase the TFW cap from 20% to 30%. At the very moment, the federal government was reducing that same cap to 10% in response to mounting public concern about wage suppression, housing pressure, and youth unemployment. According to federal lobbying records, Tim Hortons representatives continued meeting with MPs from multiple parties as recently as late 2025. That lobbying occurred against a documented backdrop of worker exploitation concerns. According to reporting by the Globe and Mail, a recruiter was allegedly involved in placing temporary foreign workers at Tim Hortons franchise locations while reportedly charging those workers up to $7,900 each for the process. Tim Hortons, at the corporate level, has publicly stated it does not engage with recruiters who charge fees to workers and that it would investigate credible allegations against franchisees. The recruiter was subsequently fined, and then there was the roll-up to win class action. A Quebec judge authorized a class action after Tim Hortons reportedly sent emails to an estimated 500,000 Canadians informing them they had won prizes and awarded, including, in at least one documented case, a boat, only for the company to later claim those emails had been sent in error. According to the lawyer representing the lead plaintiff, Tim Hortons offered no compensation. The judge noted that under Quebec consumer protection law, errors in a company's own systems do not exempt it from liability. As of publicly available records, the litigation is active and ongoing. Restaurant Brands International, Tim Hortons' parent company, reported billions in annual revenue. The MAPAQ fines across 5 Montreal locations totaled $6,000. The federal lobbying continues, the lawsuits are active, the company's public communications throughout all of it have been careful, measured, and designed to release the minimum amount of information legally required. And every morning, millions of Canadians line up for their double-double. 5 brands, 5 stories that are still unfolding right now. In courtrooms, in provincial inspection offices, in federal lobbying registries that are public but that almost nobody is actually reading. Here's what Canadians need to understand. The restaurant industry in this country operates substantially through franchise models that, by their very design, can create accountability gaps between what a brand promises on its marketing and what actually happens in a specific kitchen on a specific day. A company's size is not evidence of its safety record. The sophistication of its advertising is not evidence of its integrity. Here is what you can do. Many provinces and municipalities across Canada publish health inspection results and enforcement records for food service establishments. Look yours up, file a complaint with your provincial health authority and with the CFIA anytime you have a legitimate food safety concern. These agencies act on volume. The more Canadians report, the more pressure accumulates to enforce. And keep watching, because not one of the 5 stories on this list is finished. Subscribe for updates as these investigations develop. Share this with people in your life who eat out regularly, which, according to industry data, is most Canadians. And if this video changed how you see any of these brands, let us know in the comments which one hit you the hardest. Canada's restaurant industry counts on you not asking questions. It's time to start asking them.